The night was quiet in the small town where Sheriff Mark Holloway had spent his entire life keeping the peace. But nothing in his years of service had prepared him for the storm about to unfold. It started with a simple curiosity, one of those DNA test kits that had become so popular. His son had taken one for fun, just to explore their ancestry. What came back wasn't just surprising, it was life-shattering. The results didn't match, not even close. Confused, Mark sent in his own sample, hoping for some kind of mistake. But when the new results came back, the truth hit like a freight train. His 2 children, his pride and joy, weren't biologically his. Their real father, his own brother, Jake. Mark's mind raced with questions. How? When? Why? He had always trusted Jake, always believed in family. But betrayal this deep, this personal, was more than he could wrap his head around. And the more he searched for answers, the darker the truth became. What had started as a simple DNA test was about to unravel secrets buried for years. Lies, deception, and soon a crime that would shake the town to its core. Mark wasn't just a sheriff anymore. He was a man pushed to his limits, torn between duty and the fury burning inside him. And before it was over, someone wouldn't make it out alive. Mark sat in his truck outside his house, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. His mind replayed every moment, every memory with Jake. They had grown up together, side by side. Jake had always been the wild one, getting into trouble while Mark took on the role of protector. But this was something else entirely. He thought of his wife, Claire. They had built a life together, raised their kids with love and trust. Now, trust felt like a cruel joke. Had she known? Had she lied to him all these years? The thought made his chest tighten, but he couldn't bring himself to confront her. Not yet. He needed answers first. The town was small, and secrets didn't stay buried for long. If he started digging, people would notice. And if Jake had kept something this big from him, what else was he hiding? Mark wasn't just searching for the truth anymore, he was hunting it. He drove aimlessly, his mind racing. He found himself outside Jake's old cabin, the place where they used to fish as kids. It had been years since he'd set foot there, but something about it pulled him in. The porch light flickered weakly as he stepped out of his truck. The air was thick, heavy with something unspoken. He hesitated for only a moment before pushing the door open. Inside, the past waited for him, and with it, a truth far worse than he imagined. The cabin smelled of dust and old wood, like time itself had settled in and refused to leave. Mark's boots creaked against the worn floorboards as he stepped inside. The place hadn't changed much. The same hunting gear hung on the walls, the same couch sat near the fireplace. But now, everything felt different. He wasn't just visiting his brother's retreat, he was stepping into a past he never knew existed. He ran his fingers over the edge of an old wooden table, his mind swirling with questions. Had Jake and Claire met here? Had they sat in this very room, whispering secrets behind his back? His stomach churned, but anger had to wait. First, he needed proof. Mark spotted a desk in the corner, half buried under old newspapers and unopened mail. He started sifting through it, looking for anything that could explain how long this had been going on. Bills, fishing permits, nothing unusual. Then, at the bottom of the drawer, he found a small box. His breath caught as he lifted the lid. Inside were photographs. His hands shook as he flipped through them. Pictures of Claire. Pictures of his kids, standing next to Jake. Birthday parties, school events, moments Mark had always thought were his alone to cherish. But Jake had been there, watching, waiting. The walls of the cabin seemed to close in as realization hit him. This wasn't just betrayal. This was something deeper, something planned, and he wasn't sure he wanted to know what came next. Mark's pulse pounded in his ears as he stared at the photographs. Each one felt like a punch to the gut, proof that his entire life had been built on a lie. He clenched his jaw, swallowing the anger burning in his throat. This wasn't just, and it felt impossible to crawl out of. A sudden noise outside made him freeze. Tires crunching on gravel. Headlights swept across the cabin's window. Someone was here. Mark shoved the photos back into the box and stepped into the shadows, pressing his back against the wall. The front door creaked open, and heavy boots thudded against the floor. He knew that walk. He had heard it 1,000 times before. "Mark?" Jake's voice was calm, but there was something off about it. Mark stayed silent, his hand instinctively reaching for the holster at his side. He could see Jake's shadow moving across the room. The older brother, the trusted brother, now nothing more than a stranger. "I know you've been looking," Jake continued, his tone eerily steady. "I figured you'd end up here sooner or later." He sighed, almost as if he were disappointed. "I wish you hadn't." Mark stepped forward, his voice low and tight. "How long?" Jake exhaled, shaking his head. "Does it really matter?" Mark's fists clenched. "It matters to me." Jake turned slowly, his eyes unreadable in the dim light. "Then you're not gonna like what happens next." Mark's breath hitched at Jake's words, but he didn't move. The air between them felt thick, charged with something heavier than just betrayal. Jake wasn't nervous. He wasn't apologetic. If anything, he looked like a man who had already made peace with what came next. Mark took a slow step forward, eyes locked on his brother. "What did you do?" Jake didn't answer right away. He glanced toward the desk, then back at Mark. "You think this is just about Claire, don't you?" His lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You don't even see the bigger picture." A chill crawled up Mark's spine. "What are you talking about?" Jake sighed, rubbing a hand over his jaw. "I didn't just take your family, Mark. I was trying to save them." Mark's stomach turned. Save them? From what? Jake hesitated for the first time. His fingers drummed against his thigh, like he was weighing how much to say. Then, finally, he spoke. "Claire came to me, a long time ago, before the kids were even born." His voice was lower now, almost a whisper. "She was scared, Mark. Scared of ***. Mark felt the ground shift beneath him. His pulse pounded in his ears. "That's a lie." "Is it?" Jake took a step closer. "You ever wonder why she never told you the truth? Maybe it wasn't about the affair. Maybe she was protecting them. From ***. Mark's breath caught in his throat. He had walked into this cabin expecting to uncover the truth. He never thought the truth would turn on ***him**. Mark's head spun as Jake's words hung in the air. It didn't make sense. It couldn't make sense. He had been a good husband, a good father. Hadn't he? His mind raced back through the years, searching for moments, signs of what Jake was claiming. But nothing came. Nothing except the raw, unshakable rage building in his chest. "You're lying," Mark said, his voice low, dangerous. "Claire never said a word, not once." Jake took another step forward, his expression unreadable. "Because she knew what you'd do. And now? Now you're proving her right." Mark's hands clenched into fists. He wanted to shout, to demand the truth, but something about Jake's calmness made him hesitate. Jake wasn't acting like a man caught in a lie. He was acting like a man who knew exactly how this would end. Then Mark saw it, the flicker of something in Jake's hand. A folded piece of paper. Jake held it up, shaking his head. "She left this with me, Mark, just in case." Mark's heart pounded as Jake tossed the paper onto the desk. He reached for it, his fingers unsteady as he unfolded the letter. Claire's handwriting stared back at him. "Mark, if you're reading this, then Jake did what I asked. He told you the truth. I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted to keep our children safe. You changed over the years. The anger, the drinking. The nights you don't remember, but we do. I was scared, Mark. I didn't know another way. Please let them go. Let this end here. ***. Mark's breath caught, his vision blurred. He wanted to deny it, to call it a lie. But deep down, he felt the weight of every unspoken moment, every time Claire had flinched when he raised his voice, every memory that suddenly carried a different meaning. He looked up and Jake was watching him, not with anger, not with triumph, with asterisk pity asterisk. And in that moment, Mark realized the truth. The real betrayal hadn't come from Jake, it had come from himself. Mark stood frozen, the letter trembling in his hands. The weight of the truth crushed him in a way no bullet or fist ever could. His whole life, he had seen himself as the protector, the good man who did everything for his family. But now, he saw himself through Claire's eyes, through his children's. And for the first time, he questioned everything.